Hi there, it's so nice to see you again. Today we're going to have a chat about the Aquarius full moon, which will be happening on August 9th, 2025. I hope this horoscope is going to help you understand a little bit better the general energies of this full moon, as well as narrow down with your rising sign what type of places in your life this full moon might show up. Remember that if you do need extra support, my books are open for private readings. You can go ahead and check out the types of readings I offer and the prices down below in the description box. This is a very intellectual type of moon. The moon is going to be in the decan ruled by Mercury, and the sun will be in the decan ruled by Jupiter. They're planets that are focused on the mind or focused on ideas. Keep in mind that Mercury is more focused on sort of like practical and details, the minute, whereas Jupiter is much more focused on beliefs, philosophies, and bigger picture thinking. So you might find yourself during this full moon going back and forth between these two types of ways of thinking about the world, and you might just in general find yourself a lot more in your mind and a lot less in your feelings during this full moon. Especially because the moon is happening in Aquarius, and Aquarius is already an air sign, one that is focused on the mind and on the thoughts. One very interesting aspect during this full moon is also that we have Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune have been dancing in their conjunction for a while, and around this full moon, Mars will oppose them. This could mean that you are facing some type of responsibility or some type of a roadblock that is affecting your motivation, affecting your drive, affecting your energy. Perhaps it's making it difficult to get out of bed. It's making it difficult for you to be motivated and to go after your goals and your ambitions. So keep that in mind during this full moon. And of course, as it happens with every aspect, with every full moon and new moon, do remember that this is not a permanent aspect. Mars will pull away from that opposition, so just wait a couple of days after the full moon, and then you'll probably find that responsibility or that block, that reality has dwindled away. It's not as present, and you're able to find yourself motivated and moving again. And of course, I do have to mention that we have another very beautiful aspect during this full moon, which is Venus conjunct Jupiter. This is a beautiful aspect which shows that there might be some more opportunities coming your way during this full moon. And as I mentioned in my August horoscope, do be mindful when we see a Venus and Jupiter conjunction not to get too proud and to say, well, I'll seize that opportunity next time it comes around. I'm on holiday now, it's summer now. I'm going to go to the park and not work as hard because I'll get another job offer in the fall when I'm ready for it. Do seize the opportunities that come your way in August, and especially during this full moon. And finally, before we get into the rising sign horoscopes, a full moon in Aquarius for all of us will ask us to take a look at how trying to be different from the crowd has led us to where we are today, how it has crafted and shaped the life that we're living. For some of us, that would be a wonderful crafting, a wonderful shape that we have created. A life where we feel aligned, a life where we feel free, a life where we feel like we truly do everything to the beat of our own drum. And for some of us, what we've created and what has been the result of us trying to be separate from society, separate from the crowd, we might find that we've created a detached life, a life with great ideas, but no real emotional connection. a life where we're free, but we don't feel loved, we don't feel seen, we don't feel appreciated. So these will be the themes for all of us during this full moon. And if you're somebody that likes to work with the full moon energies, it's a good idea to journal on that around the full moon and see what's coming up for yourself. Where do you have this freedom in your life? Where have you decided to take these choices to walk to the beat of your own drum? And where has that led you today? Has it led to freedom, happiness, feeling aligned? Or has it led to lack of emotions, lack of connection with others, lack of appreciation, lack of a feeling of belonging? Now, let's jump into each of the rising signs. I highly recommend watching them for the rising sign as well as the sun sign. And in there, we'll dive a little bit deeper into the exact area of your life where you might find this feeling or these thoughts coming up when it comes to freedom and the price that you have paid for it. So for Aries rising and Aries sun signs, this full moon, you might find yourself reflecting back on the goals that you have determined yourself, the ambitions that you're working towards, that are uniquely your own and not ones that are determined by society. If everybody around you is buying a house, your goal is to travel the most destinations. That's just one example, but of course it could manifest in many different ways. So during this full moon, do notice whether that has led to this aligned and freeing life, or whether it has led to you being so focused on these goals, so, focused in your mind and detached from what's actually happening here and now, and blocking yourself from actually enjoying the beauty of the present moment. All of the good and wonderful and fun and pleasurable things that you have here and right now. And of course, Aries, we talked in the general horoscope that Mars is opposing Saturn and Neptune. For you, this might manifest in feeling less confident, less outgoing, and therefore that making you also feel a little bit less motivated, a little bit less driven to go out there and go after what you desire. For Taurus, with this full moon, you might be reflecting on the unique role you have chosen to play in society. Maybe everybody around you expects you to be a mother, but you decided, I am going to be a volunteer. I am going to be an activist for this cause. Again, that's just one example, but you've probably been focused on really carving your own unique contribution and role that you play in society. During this full moon, do reflect on what type of life that has created for you. Whether you feel alive and aligned with this vision, whether you feel like you can truly be yourself when you play this role, when you're in this role, or whether it has led to a place where you feel detached from your private life, or you feel detached from what you're actually feeling and who you actually are, that there's still some part of you that feels like you cannot truly be yourself when you are volunteering or being a mother or whatever that role may be for you. And remember, with the general horoscope, we talked about Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune. For you specifically, Taurus, the way this might manifest is that your dreams are quite active, and that's making your energy quite low during the day. Or in general, you might be finding it difficult to find some alone time for yourself. Maybe you're quite busy around this period. And because of that, because you don't have that alone time to recharge, you also feel less motivated, less driven to go and do some active things that you have planned to do. For Gemini, This full moon might make you reflect on past choices you have made to determine your own philosophy, your own life belief for yourself, instead of just following what society teaches you. For some of us, that could literally mean stepping away from a religion that we were born with, or, if we exist in a conservative society or a conservative geography, we decide to remove ourselves and move more towards the liberal side. Again, these are just some examples, but you will probably be reflecting on how these choices you have made have resulted in the life you have today. Do you feel aligned? Do you feel alive with what you believe in? Or do you start to feel too much in your head with these beliefs and too removed from the actual realities? Have you started becoming too dogmatic and not actually reflecting the compassion and the empathy that sometimes is needed, because we're all humans and because life is not as simple as black or white. Life is not as simple as, these people are bad and these people are good. And remember, Gemini, we also have that Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune. For yourself, you might find that there's some type of a block from working on your goals. Maybe you are saving for a house, or maybe you're working towards starting a family, some sort of long-term goal. During this full moon, you might find that there's something blocking it, putting a pause to it temporarily. And that might also make you feel less motivated, less energetic. So something to be aware of. Cancer. This full moon will make you reflect on your own definitions, the choices that you have made to follow the beat of your own drum when it comes to vulnerability and when it comes to intimacy. Have you in the past decided that intimacy to you doesn't have to mean physical intimacy, but sometimes just connecting in quiet time, connecting intellectually, connecting through eye contact? Have you made the choice in the past to start being vulnerable with different people, to maybe be more choosy for who you open up to? As a Cancer, you can be quite sensitive, so that probably has been a big learning point for you at some point. Again, these are just some examples, but during the full moon, you might be reflecting on how you have carved your own path. What does intimacy mean to you? What does vulnerability mean to you? And during this full moon, you might also be reflecting on whether that has led to you feeling more in love, more connected to the people that you're intimate and vulnerable with, or whether it has just made you detached, not caring about the needs of others, really focused on what it is that you want, what it is that you need. Removing the heart from it. And have you removed your heart from it, and have you approached it too much from the mind or the logic? And of course, Cancer, as I mentioned, we have that Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune. For you, this could mean that your career is quite challenging right now. Perhaps it's asking for a lot from you, a lot of energy. Maybe you just feel like there's a block there. Somebody's standing in your way, or, a client is acting up, and you need to really focus there. As a result, you might find that your drive and your motivation during this full moon is a little bit more on the low end. Leo. This full moon is all about your relationships, and specifically you might be reflecting on the choices you have made in the past to have and define a relationship just the way you like it. If people say, you need to get married within 2 years, you are not doing that. You are looking at, does it work for me? Does it work for my partner? If people are saying you need to live together to be in a partnership, you said, no, that does not work for me. I am following the beat of my own drum when it comes to this relationship. with this full moon, and while you're doing this reflection, you might also look at whether these choices have led to actually having an aligned, beautiful, heartfelt partnership, or whether it has led to you being a bit selfish and not considering the needs of the other in this relationship. And of course, because we have that Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune, you might also find it really difficult during this time to form your own beliefs, to sort of form your own philosophy about, what is it that you truly believe? Do you find family or friends more important? Are you somebody that's willing to stop your career for your partner? Are you somebody that believes in always supporting others, even if they hurt you or they harm you? You might be finding it quite difficult to just make sense of what it is that you stand for and that you believe in. And therefore, you might find yourself feeling less driven, less motivated, and less energetic. As I mentioned with the general horoscope, it is temporary, so I hope that helps with getting through it. Virgo, during this full moon, you might be reflecting on how you have approached your daily routine and changed it up, adjusted it so that it fits exactly for you. How you have adjusted your responsibilities and made them into something that works for you, not something that society expects of you. It's this idea of, maybe you're a mother or father, and society expects that your responsibility is to put your children to bed every night. But you find that after you come home from work and you're tired, you're not in your best space to do that. So you've hired a nanny or you've had family come over to do that. You have adjusted your responsibilities and your day-to-day so that they work exactly for you. During this full moon, while you're reflecting on that, it's really good to take a look at whether these adjustments have led to much more exciting, much more free feeling in life, or whether they have led to this sort of lack of compassion, lack of heart towards the humanity in all of us, and towards the fact that, responsibilities or not, hardships or not, sometimes we do need to give of ourselves and we do need to serve others. And of course, Virgo, we do have that Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune. For you, this might manifest as some struggles or a little bit of a heavier time with your emotional and your mental health. You might just find yourself feeling a lot more moody during this time. And of course, that has an effect on your motivation and your energy. You might not feel as driven, as energetic as you usually do. Again, it's temporary, so just keep that in mind for this full moon. Libra, during this full moon, you might find yourself reflecting on your hobbies and your unique definition of what you consider to be fun. Maybe everybody around you says going to music festivals is the best thing in the world, but you just know that doesn't work for you. For you, fun is going to bingo nights. For you, fun is going to bed at 9 p.m. and waking up at 5 for a jog with the community run club. Whatever it may be, during this full moon, you'll be reflecting on these choices that you have made, how you have decided to determine your own definition of fun. And take a look during this full moon, what sort of that has resulted in. Has it led to a life that feels really aligned, really free, really passionate and exciting? Or has it led to a life where you are so removed from your connection to others, your connection to your community, and is sort of holding you back from ever achieving any long-term goals that you might have? Maybe you have a long-term goal of getting married someday, but the fact that with your hobbies and the things that you do for fun are maybe usually hobbies that you do alone, you can start to see how there might be a discrepancy there, that your alone hobbies could be holding you back in some way from achieving this long-term goal of meeting somebody and sharing your life with them. Again, just one example, but something to ponder on. And of course, Libra, we also have that Mars opposing Neptune and Saturn. For you, you might find that there is a partner. Doesn't have to be romantic. It could be like a business partner or a really close friend that is maybe taking a lot of your energy right now. Maybe things are difficult with them and they do require some of your love and attention. But what you'll find is that this situation is draining your own energy, is draining your own motivation, maybe making you feel a little bit less energetic to go after your own goals. Scorpio, the full moon in Aquarius will have you reflecting on your own definition of home and family, how you have determined that, and maybe the sacrifices and the choices that you've made along the way. Maybe you are somebody that decided to form your own unique little family, or you've decided that with your family, it doesn't have to necessarily mean living together, but something else. Spending a meal together. Maybe you've decided for yourself that you're not somebody that needs one home. You prefer to have multiple homes and multiple families. And whatever those choices may have been, during this full moon, you'll be reflecting on whether that has led to an aligned life, a happy life, a life that feels like freedom, or whether it has led to you being quite removed from the rest of humanity and society and quite aloof, finding yourself that you are so focused on these own definitions, so focused on these private circles of belonging, that you are failing to participate in society, failing to make any useful contributions to the rest of society. As with all of the zodiac signs, we're all going to be experiencing that Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune. And for yourself, you might find a responsibility, like an adult responsibility coming your way during this full moon that's draining your drive and energy. It could be that you have a cleaner, but now the cleaner is on a holiday during the week of the full moon, and there's this extra responsibility of you need to clean your own home. That feels like not very energizing. Again, that's just one example. It could happen that your example is a little bit more light or a little bit more serious. Sagittarius, this full moon on August 9th is all about your own voice and your communication. You might be reflecting on how you have been narrowing down what your own voice sounds like, what you care about, what you want to say and contribute to the rest of the world when you speak. During this full moon, while reflecting on all that, it's good to question whether those choices have led to a beautiful, free feeling in your life today, or whether it might have led to innovative ideas, but at the same time, ideas that are lacking some overarching strategy or overall purpose. You say lots of cool, innovative things, but none of them add up, or none of them sort of contribute to each other to the point where it's actually something meaningful and something insightful for others. During this full moon, we also have Mars opposing Neptune and Saturn. And for you, this could be quite an interesting one because it's happening in the karma house, the 5th house. If you're somebody that's dating, you might find that your dating life during this full moon is making you feel a little bit less motivated, a little bit less energetic. Maybe it's asking for a lot of your attention. Maybe it feels like it's really struggling. You really need to put your energy there. Or if you're not somebody that's dating, it could just be a connection that's around you, somebody in your life that feels like a karmic connection. There's some sort of like an energy or some sort of like a very charged interaction that feels overly charged for what the situation actually is. And that's usually how you can know there's probably something else underneath the surface. So that's something that we call karmic connection. So whatever that's happening, whether with your date or with this karmic connection, it's probably requiring quite a lot of energy around this full moon, and therefore making you less energetic and less motivated. Capricorn, during this full moon, you'll be reflecting on self-confidence and self-esteem, what those two mean to you. And you might be reflecting on whether you have made choices in the past or decisions in your past so that you have your own definition. Others might say, well, self-esteem is taking care of our appearance, getting frequent haircuts, and dressing well. But maybe for you, that's not part of it. Maybe for you, self-esteem is, or self-confidence is nourishing your body. Maybe it's getting that extra sleep, even if it means you have less time to put in your hair or in your appearance. Again, just some examples, but you'll probably be thinking about these types of topics during the full moon. And while you're thinking about them, you might find yourself reflecting on whether these choices you have made, these definitions of what self-confidence means for you, are actually leading to an aligned, exciting, free feeling in life, or whether they're making you overly self-reliant, and whether they have resulted in you not being intimate, not being vulnerable with anybody anymore. Something to reflect on. And of course, with that Mars opposition to Saturn and Neptune, how this might manifest for you during the full moon, Capricorn, is that there could be something happening with your family or with your physical home that requires some energy, that requires some attention, and that could be draining some of your motivation and energy, and you find that you're not as driven in other areas of your life. Aquarius, this is your full moon. It's happening in your first house. And you might find, depending on when you're born and what degrees your natal sun is in, this could potentially be a very important full moon for you. In general, you will be reflecting a lot on what it means for you to have true freedom and how you can continue to show up as yourself and stop faking appearances, or stop trying to dress or to talk or to do things just to keep up with society's expectations. And again, because this is happening in your first house, it could be overarching. It could be about many things. You could be thinking about your career. It could be thinking about your relationships. You could be thinking about just your whole life philosophy or where you live. But in general, there's this feeling of appearances and whether how you show up in the world is truly aligned to who you are and how you feel. And while you're considering all that during the full moon, it's good to ask yourself whether you're making the right choices, whether you're moving in the right direction, whether this is leading to a really aligned and free life, or whether it has just made you overly self-confident and maybe a little bit not as concerned with other people's needs or other people's wants. And of course, during this full moon, we have Mars opposing Neptune and Saturn. How this might manifest for you, Aquarius, is that you might find it a little bit more difficult to communicate during this full moon. Maybe you try to teach or to write, but the words are just not coming out. Or you might find yourself trying to relay an idea to one of your colleagues, but they just don't seem to understand it, or you can't find the right words for it. And these troubles with communication, troubles with your voice, will probably result in a lower energy, a lower drive to get up and do some more action things. Pisces. For this full moon, you might be finding yourself reflecting on your spirituality and the choices that you have made there. Have you been making sure to define spirituality according to your own terms. Maybe everybody says spirituality is about sitting on the meditation cushion, but for you, it's about volunteering at that center in your community. Or maybe for you, spirituality is about going to your elderly mother once a week and giving her her bath. During this full moon, you're reflecting on those choices and you're taking a look at whether they feel aligned, whether they have led to a life that feels free, or whether they have led to a life that feels overly conceptual and actually removed from the practicality of what it means to be a human in this body. And of course, because we have Mars opposing Neptune and Saturn, you might find during the full moon that you feel a little bit less self-confident than you usually do, maybe a little bit more self-conscious. And as a result, that makes you less driven and less energetic to go out and do things. So you might find your drive is a little bit slower. So I hope this horoscope helps you for the full moon ahead. I hope it gives you some clarity on what could be coming up and gives you a guidance on what you could reflect, whether in your meditations, in your journaling, for your walks. And of course, remember that my books are open. So if you need extra support during this full moon or just in general during the month of August, you can always book a reading with me. The link is down below in the description box. Thanks for joining me. Let me know down in the comments if you're looking forward to this full moon and if this horoscope resonates. And I hope to see you again soon.